Have you ever met someone? Someone who had nothing, no money, no education, no fancy clothes, yet carried a heart so powerful that it could move mountains. This is the story of one such man. A man whose hands were rough from work, whose clothes were stained with dust, but whose dreams were brighter than gold. His name was Ramesh Kumar, a simple street sweeper from the busy city of Mumbai, India. He didn't have much, not even a proper house. But he had something that no one could take away: hope. And this is the true story of how a man with a broom in his hand learned a language that opened the world for him and inspired hundreds of others to believe that learning has no limits. Every morning at 4 o'clock, when the city was still asleep, Ramesh would wake up, wash his face with cold water, and step outside into the dark streets with his broom. The air was cold. The roads were empty. And the only sound was the soft sweep of his broom touching the ground. He cleaned the same streets every day, quietly, carefully, faithfully. People passed by him daily. Some noticed, most didn't. Some smiled politely. Some ignored him. And a few whispered, "He's just a sweeper." But Ramesh never replied with anger. He simply smiled and whispered to himself, "Maybe today I am a sweeper, but tomorrow, who knows?" He wasn't proud of his job, but he wasn't ashamed of it either. He believed, work is not big or small, only people's thinking is. One afternoon, while sweeping near a school gate, Ramesh stopped for a moment to rest. He watched a group of students standing outside. They were laughing, talking, and reading aloud, in English. The words sounded strange, musical, powerful. He didn't understand them, but he could feel them. For the first time, he realized how beautiful English sounded, and how confident those who spoke it seemed. That night, as he returned home, tired and sweaty, he looked at his wife, Sita, and said, "Sita, I want to learn English." She looked at him, surprised. "English? You work all day, Ramesh. When will you learn? You barely sleep." He smiled. "I'll study when the world sleeps." And that one sentence changed his life forever. Every night after work, when his children slept and the city grew silent, Ramesh would take out an old notebook and a torn English book that he had found near the garbage bins weeks ago. Under a flickering streetlight, he began with the alphabet: A, B, C, D. He wrote every letter again and again. He repeated every sound again and again. He made mistakes, hundreds of them, but never stopped. He didn't have a teacher. He didn't have a mobile phone or YouTube. All he had was his will to learn. His eyes often burned with tiredness. His hands shook from work. But every time he wanted to quit, he remembered the students' laughter. And he whispered, "If they can speak, so can I." Learning was not easy. Some nights, the rain poured heavily and he had no shelter. His notebook got wet. His words blurred away. But he would dry the pages and write again. Sometimes, when he tried to speak English with people, they laughed at him. Some mocked his accent. Some said, "You're too old to learn." But he only smiled and replied, "Maybe my age is old, but my dream is still young." His wife, seeing his dedication, slowly began to support him. She would boil tea late at night and sit beside him silently as he studied. She didn't understand English, but she understood love and determination. Months passed. Then years. One morning, while sweeping outside a large office building, Ramesh heard a man calling out, "Good morning." Without thinking, Ramesh replied, "Good morning, sir." The man stopped. He turned around and asked, "You speak English?" Ramesh smiled shyly. "A little, sir. I'm still learning." The man was surprised, not by Ramesh's English, but by his courage. He asked, "Where did you learn?" Ramesh pointed to the ground and said proudly, "Right here. The street is my classroom." The man laughed, not out of mockery, but in admiration. He worked for the municipal office and decided to help Ramesh. Within a few months, Ramesh was promoted to supervisor of cleanliness. He now led a team of sweepers, trained them, and spoke confidently in English. His children were proud. His wife had tears in her eyes the day he signed his name in English. For the very first time. But the story didn't end there. After his promotion, Ramesh didn't stop learning. He began teaching others like him, sweepers, cleaners, and drivers. Every Sunday morning, he gathered them under a big tree near the road. He drew letters on a small whiteboard and said, "This is not just English. This is respect. When you learn to speak, you learn to believe in yourself." Soon, people started joining him. Students volunteered to teach. And local newspapers wrote about the sweeper who became a teacher. Ramesh never charged anyone a single rupee. He said, "Education gave me wings. How can I sell my wings to others?" Years later, a journalist came to interview him. He asked, "Ramesh, what inspired you to start learning English?" Ramesh looked down the same road he once swept and said softly, "Because I was tired of being invisible. I wanted the world to hear my voice." He smiled and added, "English didn't make me better than others. It just made me believe that I was equal." Today, Ramesh's small Sunday class has become a free learning center for workers all over Mumbai. He teaches not only English, but also confidence, discipline, and self-belief. He tells everyone, "No job is small. The only small thing is our thinking. Once your heart believes, your future begins to change." So, whenever you feel like giving up, whenever you think your dreams are too far away, remember Ramesh, the man who swept streets by day and learned English by night. He didn't have money. He didn't have time. He didn't even have proper light. But he had something that most people forget: faith in himself. And that made all the difference. You don't need to be rich to dream big. You just need to be ready to try. Success doesn't come from luck. It comes from consistency, courage, and belief. And remember, even a broom can become a pen if the hand that holds it refuses to give up. Believe in yourself, even when no one else does. Because sometimes, the greatest stories are written by the people no one believed in.